How does it happen? How can a few spare lines in a 16th century chronicle ignite a full-blown 21st century information war? Today, we're tracing the story of Yasuke, an African man in feudal Japan, to see how his life became a battleground for history itself. Welcome to Insight History HD. Together, we will peel back the layers of narratives long locked away in the archives of history. What we're going to follow is a modern-day butterfly effect. It all starts with the popular retelling of one man's life, but the ripples from that story, they spread out, eventually corrupting the very knowledge bases of modern artificial intelligence. This is a journey from manuscript to machine.
So, where does the real story start? Well, everything we know for certain begins right here, with primary sources like the Lord Nobunaga Chronicle. This is one of the very first documented accounts of Yasuke's arrival in 1581. And as you can see, it's brief, it's intriguing for sure, but it leaves so much unsaid. This right here, this is the tiny factual seed from which a massive legend would grow.
And that's really the heart of the matter. You have to understand, the entire historical record for Yasuke, it fits on just a few pages, a handful of Jesuit letters and Japanese chronicles. That's it. This scarcity of hard evidence, it created a kind of vacuum, a mystery that, as we'll see, future generations were more than happy to fill. You know, what's really telling is that the story started changing almost immediately, even in these early transcriptions. A researcher, Elark Nude, points out this subtle but crucial shift in the language. An earlier manuscript says Yasuke appeared to be a certain age, like a personal observation. But a later copy, it says he was judged to be that age. See the difference? It's already becoming a more formal, retold story. The narrative was being reshaped from the very beginning. Okay, so let's fast forward to our time. That historical vacuum we talked about, it basically became an open invitation. With only a few concrete facts to work with, modern authors, creators, they saw an opportunity, a chance to build a much bigger, much more dramatic story for Yasuke. And this whole thing really came to a head with Popular Histories, especially a book by Thomas Lockley. I mean, look at this comment from a Reddit discussion. It kind of says it all, right? People saw these few original pages being spun into a 400-page biography and started asking, okay, where does the actual history stop? And where does, well, historical fan fiction begin? That line just got incredibly blurry. And this is what that feeling in the blanks looks like. A powerful new legend emerges, full of these really specific, compelling details. Suddenly, Yasuke isn't just a historical figure. He's the first and only black samurai, a trusted confidant to Oda Nobunaga himself. He was supposedly granted his own home, a ceremonial sword, even had a wife and kids after Nobunaga's death. Now, some of this is based on, let's say, generous interpretations of the record. But a lot of it, it's pure embellishment that over time started to be treated as solid fact. So you have to be asking, how did this legend get so baked in? How did it become the truth? Well, the mechanism behind it is something called circular referencing. And this is the key to the whole thing. It's when one source makes a claim, and then a bunch of other sources just cite that first source. It creates this illusion that the information is coming from all these different independent places, when really, it all goes back to just one starting point. And that researcher, Alaric Nade, he lays out this digital paper trail just perfectly. You can see exactly how it works. A popular book comes out with a speculative narrative. Then, a well-known magazine article cites the book. After that, a Wikipedia article cites the magazine. And just like that, poof, a guess, an idea, suddenly looks like it's been confirmed by 3 different credible sources. The effect is that this process basically launders information. This closed loop makes the new story seem totally solid, super credible, especially if you're just looking it up online. It becomes a self-reinforcing echo chamber. And the most dangerous part is that nobody ever goes back to check the original claims against the actual primary evidence. And here's where we get the big modern twist in the story. Because this digital echo chamber, it doesn't just stay in a corner of the internet. As Nade points out, the artificial intelligence engines we're building right now, they rely on data scraped from places like Wikipedia. So our digital myths, this historical fan fiction, is literally becoming the training data, the foundational knowledge for the next generation of technology. So this whole debate was kind of simmering under the surface for a while, but then it just exploded. It became a full-blown culture war when it was announced that Yasuke would be the protagonist in a huge new video game. That one move cemented the legend in mainstream pop culture, and it triggered this massive online debate about historical accuracy. I mean, you can see the trajectory right here on this chart. For years, online mentions of Yasuke were pretty low. Then you get a bit of a spike with an anime release in 2021. But look what happens with the game announcement. The whole discussion just goes into overdrive. A man from the 16th century becomes a flashpoint for a 21st century culture war. And that really brings us to a critical question for our time, doesn't it? What happens when an AI trained on our pop culture, our games, our Wikipedia articles, is asked to write history? I mean, really think about that. The next time you ask an AI a question, its answer about the past could be fundamentally shaped by this corrupted information. It could present pure fiction as established fact, and you'd never know. And you have to realize, this isn't some simple two-sided argument, not at all. If you look at the discussions happening among actual academics, it's a complete tangle of really complex issues. You've got accusations of historical revisionism clashing with arguments for creative liberty. You have these really important debates about representation and racism, and then you have this deep frustration from Japanese historians and gamers who feel like their history is being fabricated for a global audience.
But when you boil it down, a lot of the online fighting comes down to these two camps. On one side, you have the historical accuracy argument. They say that presenting fiction as fact misinforms everyone and, frankly, disrespects the historical record. On the other side, you have the "it's just a game" argument. They say, look, this is entertainment, not a textbook. Creative freedom to tell a good story is what matters most.
So why does any of this actually matter? Well, Dr. Paula R. Curtis from UCLA put it perfectly. The fights we have about the past, about who is a part of it, who gets to write it, they're all tangled up with our world right now. The argument over a man who lived centuries ago isn't really about him. It's a fight about our present. It's about who gets to control the narrative. So we're left with a really challenging question. If a lie, or maybe just a good story, is told 1,000 times in books and articles, repeated in pop culture, and then taught back to us by AI, does it become a new kind of truth? It's a question that goes far beyond one man in feudal Japan and straight to the heart of our digital world. If this journey has offered you a new perspective, support our exploration by subscribing to Insight History HD. Thank you for listening, and I will see you in the next narrative.